Good morning,
Oh,
Jalpa. How are you? Or good evening, shall I say, in India. How are you?
good. Absolutely. It's like a dinner time.
I know, and we're just starting our day here in Texas. All right, so let's go ahead and dive
Uh-huh.
into this conversation here. We have 30 short minutes together today. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined us. Um, we're going to keep this conversation brief and it's going to move quickly. So you'll see on your screen a place at the bottom or top of your screen for Q&A. That's the best place to drop your questions. We're going to have some time for Q&A at the end of our webinar here. Do not hold on to them. Do not wait until the end. As soon as you have them in your mind, go ahead and add them to the Q&A. That way you don't have to sit and think about them the entire time, and we will answer all of your questions at the end. And I already see people have found the chat. Thank you so much. In the chat, we'll be sharing some resources with you throughout, but especially at the end of this webinar. Feel free to introduce yourself. I see Andrew in Thailand, Cassandra in Florida. Hello, hello, hello. Right now you are chatting with us. So introduce yourselves. We're so excited to meet you, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Jessica. So this webinar is hosted by Penpal Schools, where I'm the community manager. We're so lucky to be today to be joined by Jalpa Sheth from India. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself, Jalpa.
All right. This is Jalpa Sheth from India. Is it audible?
I can hear you. Yep.
And I would just like to introduce myself, what I do. I'm currently working with an international school in Mumbai, that is Oberoi International School. And my current role is design and technology teacher in MYP, that is middle school year program. And previous role was about in PYP, that was in primary. It was more about a tech integrator where I used to integrate technology into the curriculum, more of collaboration across the grades and different range of abilities, including students and teachers. This year, my role has been changed, and I'm teaching only design and technology. So it's more or less something related with integration.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You're going to hear a lot more throughout the webinar from Jalpa, but a lot of already there. This idea of collaboration and using technology to bring more collaboration into your classrooms. Before we go any further, we want to get to know you. So I have a quick little poll here. A lot of people registered for this webinar that I know, different time zones, busy school day. Not everybody is joining us live this morning or this afternoon. So please take a moment and let us know who you are and kind of where you're at with global collaboration. So are you currently connecting students with their peers around the world? What level of IB programming are you working with, just so that we have an idea as we continue our conversation? And then I want to kind of get a pulse from you. I feel comfortable finding and bringing authentic and diverse global connections into my classroom. True or false? How comfortable do you feel with that right now before we get into this conversation? I know bringing those diverse and authentic perspectives into your classroom is something that teachers always want to do, but feeling comfortable and confident to be able to do that is maybe another story. So let's take maybe about 10 more seconds on this poll. We've got a lot of responses pouring in here, and then I'm going to share the results with you guys. But so far, a lot of people are not yet connecting students, so you're going to be really, really excited today. All right, thank you so much for sharing with us. Let's take a look at these results together. So not yet, majority of people who answered this for us this morning are not yet connecting students globally. I know for sure today you're going to walk away with at least one resource that can help you do that really, really quickly. Most of our attendees are PYP and from MYP programs. Awesome. We are going to talk about DP as well. If you're not in an IB school, you are still in the right place. Global connections are for every single student, whether you're an IB learner or not. And I'm so excited that people are feeling confident and comfortable finding and bringing these connections to their classrooms. So I think I'm noticing a little bit of a disconnect. Maybe over the summer you got really excited, and this is your year. I'm so glad that you're here to join with us to bring those connections into your classroom. So let's dive in. Who are we and why are we talking about this? Just briefly to let you know, Penpal Schools connects students from 150 different countries. We work with just over 10,000 schools around the world. And actually, I was telling you this earlier, Jalpa. I was at a conference this summer, an IB conference, and there were several educators who recognized your picture on our map of India here. So some of these pictures here you're seeing are global ambassadors like Jalpa who are connecting their students in so many diverse ways. And their own network of educators is so strong that, they come into this community and they already know each other. On Penpal Schools, students are collaborating through collaborative topics. So just wanted to kind of drop this in your mind before we dive into this conversation, that a connection isn't just about putting two people together to talk to each other, but really putting two or more people together using the whole world at your fingertips to dive in and explore really engaging, academically rigorous topics. So that's going to bring us to our conversation. And our first question today, how do global connections support the IB? Before I throw this question to Jalpa, I just want to share a few slides briefly to show you that alignment and really help you think about using the world as your playground for your IB programming. There is no reason why you can't have a lot of diverse and authentic global resources and perspectives in everything that you're doing in your classroom. This is a quote from an IB administrator at a school in Japan. And I really like it because he talks about international mindedness as this frame of mind. So authentic connections are going to help you get there, but it's really about developing this frame of mind, a curiosity about the world, an openness towards things other, and a profound appreciation of the complexity of our world and our relationships to each other. You don't have to be in an international context to develop this kind of mindset. You don't have to be in an international school or have travel opportunities for your student. This is a mindset, and bringing in diverse perspectives and resources allows you to develop that mindset. And that's really at the core of any level of IB programming. So in the PYP, really, really easy to add global connections into any of your units of inquiry. Right? The PYP challenges students to think for themselves and take responsibility for their learning as they explore local and global issues and opportunities in real-life contexts. Everything in PYP programming can be opened up to global collaboration. So I'm going to share this slide deck with you at the end of this presentation in case you want to spend some more time to dive into this more deeply. But this is just showing how at Penpal Schools we're supporting all of these units of inquiry. But in every single one of these, it's asking students to think about not just themselves, but themselves in the world. And so the more you can bring in these global perspectives and align them to your units, like how the world works, exploring transportation then and now, exploring robotics, bringing in subjects and connecting students around the world to let them really take a global perspective with these units. Same thing with the MYP. It's encouraging students to make practical connections between their studies and the real world, empowering students to inquire into a wide range of issues and ideas of significance locally, nationally, and globally. So globally, right? That's not just telling your students about the world, but connecting them with real peers around the world and let them discuss those issues together. Let them share their ideas together. So this is from the IB website, and they say, using global contexts, MIP students develop an understanding of their common humanity and shared guardianship of the planet through developmentally appropriate explorations of. So a global context doesn't just mean discussing global perspectives, but really framing these kind of things that you're exploring in a global context. And this works really, really well in a lot of different ways. So global contexts are going to open the door for authentic global perspectives, using novels, texts, music, poetry, art, those resources from different places around the world that your students can explore, bringing in guest speakers that may be from another place. Pen pals are a great way to connect your students with real peers around the world. Travel opportunities if you're privileged to have access to that. And pen pals, did we mention pen pals? Connect your students with real students and frame their learning around that global context. This again, I'll share this with you so you can look at it more on your own, but how all of these subjects align to our Pen Pal Schools topics. Individuals and societies is where I see the most alignment for MYP teachers. They bring a lot of global perspectives and authentic voices from around the world into their individuals and societies classes. And last, DP, great opportunities for global exchanges in your CAS, your TOK, your extended essay. As your students are kind of doing their own independent research here, that should be global, right? They should not just be going to the library or going to resources within their community. They should be accessing authentic resources that are outside of their community for research purposes, right? Your students on the DP programs are probably doing this anyway, but you can help nurture this a little bit more, again, especially in the individuals and societies track of their classroom programming. That societies is not just a US-based society or their own home country-based society, but examining global societies all around the world. And I'm going to send it to Jalpa now, really hoping you can also touch on how you are using technology as really that framework for supporting your programming with global connections. Let me go back to I'll put the question up here for you. So how do global connections support the IB in your school specifically?
The aim of the IB programs is to develop internationally minded people. And all the programs that is offered at my schools, it's IB continuum. So it's vertically and horizontally aligned with all the programs, and which kind of aligned with the IB philosophy and the learning and the technology disciplines into practices. Everything is being synced. Uh, the program allows the educators to prepare and engage the students in order for them to progress at their own learning. It also fosters to try different kind of approaches to learning and to take the responsibilities for their own educational programs. We believe in empowering and educating our students for the global world that they live in. And since our students are digitally connected, which is more like 21st century, developing their critical thinking skills, communication skills, collaboration. So through global connections, we provide kind of students a way of self-directed learning.
Awesome, thank you. Question 2, I'm going to go, sorry to briefly run through all these to get to question 2 again. So let's dive into that a little bit more. How do global connections impact your students? We've already heard a lot of great ways of how you can fit these global connections into your programming, but why, right? How do global connections impact your students?
I have become more passionate towards the global connections, offering my students in terms of, as educators, we always look forward to connect with different educators and learn, and we kind of enhance and hone our communication skill, collaboration skills. Same way we think that we should provide to our students that will definitely develop their understanding about the global connections. And for sure, it has impacted on my students' learning. And the profound impact that it had on my students was they felt pride in sharing their knowledge. They felt pride when they were connected with the different students across the globe, especially when it was pen pals. They were working on some project which talked about schools around the world,
Mm-hmm.
and they were inquiring into different communities what kind of schools that they have, what uniform that they wear, and what time they eat and what they wear, and everything that they started interchanging their the communication that they had between them with the different pen pals. And I feel that when they were more excited to talk more about their communities and their culture. And the best part was about that they accepted the differences
Mm,
when the students shared about it. And yeah, it was a hit for us because we when we had when we were inquiring about the schools and communities, it kind of covered all our learning outcomes, which was more aligned with our PYP
hmm.
skills based, you know.
Can you talk a little bit about your students' reading and writing skills and how global connections
Uh,
impact student writing or student reading?
yes, absolutely. Thanks for reminding me. When they started interacting, especially with grade 3, grade 2, and grade 4 students, they are more working on the iPads, and which gives them less scope to have writing on the pen and paper. So when they start typing, they don't realize that what they are typing and what they are sharing with each other. So we have a mini lesson before we start with the Penpal projects. We kind of inculcate them in terms of that how are you going to write, and what things you would be sharing, and what kind of a language would we use. We also have a mini lessons on digital citizenship, which talks about how online ethical choices that you make, because we are developing empathy, where the students should know when they are interacting with the students who are not similar but somewhat different, but where they live in. And yes, over the course of the action, over the course of that project, you see how students start developing their writing and reading, the way they interpret a passage. When the students are sharing their responses, they feel that, don't you think it is rude? And when it is being interpreted by the other student, they said, no, it's the way they talk. They have a slang language. They use this kind of a language. So it kind of gives them the sense of, yes, some people use this language, but then they think that no, since we are students, we are still developing. And we do get to see when students from younger age is being matched with the elder kids. I'm talking about with the middle school. uh, they see their language, and then the students pick up those languages from there. And the best part was, we also assess them on their questioning skills. So how
Mm,
are you questioning in order to get the accurate answer? Yeah,
hmm.
but yeah, it's if you see the holistic approach when you start using this Penpal school projects.
Yeah, I like that emphasis on this kind of holistic approach that you're helping students generate questions. You're helping them see a lot of different writing styles and see kind of where their writing could get to, and you're giving them goals. I also really love the
Mm,
suggestion to pair up younger students and older students in your building to work together, because then you're developing those learning relationships within your own school. And what you said is something that I hear from teachers a lot, which is that your students may be great writers on paper in your classroom. Then I hear from teachers that they get online and they start chatting with each other online, or putting their writing online, not in like a Google Doc, but in a chat forum. And it's like all the writing skills just go out the window. Like students just are like typing like they're texting each other or something. And so, giving teachers an opportunity to really help their students improve writing in ways that they're going to be writing for the rest of their life. If they are in a college classroom contributing to a discussion board, or if they're at work collaborating. I mean, we work together a lot, and you're in India and I'm in Texas. So, sending emails, things like that, being able to format your writing that way. So thank you so much. And then you can never sleep on engagement, the impact of engagement, to not only like engagement, yay, my students are engaged, but again, why? It's engaging them so that you can get to that deeper learning, so that you can take that holistic approach and really focus on a variety of skills, reading and writing and social emotional skills, and digital citizenship skills. I'm going to go quickly through these slides. If you want to access this slide deck later, you can see some examples of global collaboration in IB classrooms around the world. We have a PYP student who wrote a beautiful poem in our poetry contest about the environment and climate change, which was also part of another global project he was working on with peers around the world. And then a classroom from the US, I think this is an MYP classroom, where they participated in a flags project. And so they were discussing flags and the representation and meaning of flags. But you'll see in this response the influence of perspectives with peers around the world. This flag is representing immigration, right? So learning from a lot of diverse perspectives to create a flag. A lot of different disciplines in that project. Question 3, what resources do you use to bring authentic global perspectives into your classroom? This is where y'all will want to have a pen, paper, something to jot down some of the amazing resources that you're about to share with everybody.
All right. So you want me to talk?
Yeah, so what resources are you using in your classroom for global perspectives?
So the resources that we use to bring the authentic global perspectives into our classroom is we use Flipgrid, we use Google Suites, all the Google Suites products. We also use uh, uh, a Skype, we use Padlet, we also use Penpal's projects often. And yeah, I mean, most of the online tools, which are more collaborative tools, we kind of use those tools.
Yeah, we see teachers using a lot of things together. So on Penpal Schools, as you've heard, a lot of teachers are not only collaborating globally on Penpal Schools. As their students are forming connections, teachers are also forming connections. And Padlet can be a great resource for sharing materials. Skype offers a lot of resources for connecting your students globally. So whether you're doing a whole class connection, like a Skype connection, or an individual student-to-student connection, like on Penpal Schools or with Flipgrid, there's so many ways that you can bring global perspectives and these authentic connections to your students in different formats. And I always recommend the more the better, right? A whole class connection, an individual connection, a group connection. It's gonna make global collaboration be just a part of your learning. In our classroom, what we're learning relates to the world, period. And not like, today we're going to talk to this country. Wow, it's going to help develop international mindedness, but it's also going to make this type of thinking, this frame of mind, this curiosity about others. It's going to really help embed that into your students. And more than embed it, actually, I don't like the way I said that, it's going to help bring that out of your students. They already have that curiosity about the world in them. So Penpal Schools, which I'll help you learn more about, Skype, Flipgrid, I heard you say, Padlet. Are there others that we're forgetting? If you have some more suggestions. Oh yeah, Google Suites. Google's great, especially for, sharing documents, right? Creating a form. We see this on Penpal Schools a lot, where students will create a questionnaire and then they'll send that out to peers around the world so they can capture some information. Really helpful for your DP students as they're conducting research. Do a survey, really go out and get the perspectives of people around the world. Twitter is a great resource for this. Twitter is really, really good for research to get a pulse of kind of what people are thinking and feeling. What tips do you have for IB teachers who are new to connecting their students globally?
So now is the time that they need to connect their students globally. The reason why, because we as an educators always think that how can we develop 21st century learning skills in our students, and the best way to provide the opportunities to expand their point of view or global perspective in order to know their educational path, and giving the students the ownership of it. The students take this as a responsibility, and then they choose and they make choices. So this helps them to develop personally and also academically. So I would say you just start, you have to embrace it, and you have to create opportunities for them to do the self-directed learning.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And that can always, I think, be hard sometimes for teachers if that's not what your classroom is already looking like. So again, looking at this as an opportunity to learn with your students and just start, feel comfortable exploring. And you can model that for your students as well. That, you may not know what's going to happen with this connection, but we're going to explore and we're going to learn together. It's modeling that open frame of mind.
And also having a project, something like a pilot project, which helps the teachers to be comfortable using, and also especially when you're connecting students with the different schools, I think when you have a mini project and you are kind of exploring and your students are also getting used to with getting globally connected, this helps you and the students to figure out the best way to work with that tool.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we see a lot of people coming to Penpal schools for. They're ready and excited, but kind of want a format and a structure that helps them feel supported. So you got this. Like, we want to remind you that you got this. It's not rocket science. Here we are having this authentic connection right now, right? You're attending a webinar and you're learning from someone in Texas, in the USA, and someone in India. This kind of learning experience you can very easily create for your students. And you have a whole large group of teachers that are ready to engage with you and support you, so you are not alone. These are just some of those teachers who are using Penpal schools. If you want to come join our global learning community, we would love to have you. You would have access to not only our topics, but also this community of over 26,000 educators around the world to continue to learn with. And before we wrap up our conversation today, I just want to remind you, this is from a high school student in Ukraine who said, "I'm grateful for the opportunity to share my views with a global audience." It reminds me of what you were saying, Jalpa, about pride, right? Giving your students a chance to actually share their voice and their perspective with real peers around the world. You cannot underestimate how impactful that is for them. So let's dive in and take a look at our Q&A here. I've got to exit out of this screen so I can see the questions. Let's see our questions here. This is our first webinar on Zoom, so I want to thank everybody for being patient with us as we are figuring out the questions. Okay, are there opportunities for French schools? On Penpal schools, we do have topics that are available in French, but through Skype or through Twitter or through other mechanisms, there is absolutely opportunities to connect with other French speakers. If you go to penpalschools.com, you can explore some of those French topics that are available. How do you deal with time zones? So this is why I recommend having diverse global connections in your classrooms. If you're going to do something like a video, something live like this webinar, you need to account for the actual time zones. There's a really great website that I use to do this. I think it's timeanddate.com. This is how I always coordinate all my meetings with Jalpa, because you can basically put in your location and then somebody else's location, and it can help you find the best time zones. I'll try to find that link and drop it into the slide deck and the chat for you. If you're doing something like Penpal schools or something else that's asynchronous, meaning you're sending messages back and forth, then the time zones isn't really an issue, right? Whenever your students are in class, they log in, they read responses, and they participate. And then they log in the next day and they see more responses. Do your students, especially diploma level courses, maintain a research log or write a reflective paper to complement their research? This sounds like more of an individual question. My gut is that yes, there are people who are doing research logs and writing a reflective paper. I don't know how much of that is an IB requirement, but I know that I'm always a proponent of reflection and having students document their learning and share their learning and reflect on their learning. It kind of creates those metacognitive skills. Doesn't global connection impact students by giving them different perspectives about other subject content? Yes. I wonder if you have anything to add about that, Jalpa, using global connections to give your students a different perspective on the content of the subject that you're studying.
I would just like to give you an example of it, if that works, and that might address the question. When the students start exploring about there is a project on Penpal, World Explorer, and our students were inquiring into exploration. So when they start exploring and when they start talking about the exploration, they got a different point of view or different perspectives from the pen pals, and that's how they developed being more explorer. Exploration was there, and then it developed to more being an explorer. So yeah, it's always like when you try to have one content when you're teaching something, or when the students are inquiring into something, that leads to a different inquiry. So yes, it does help.
Yeah, totally. My students always used to ask in our World War II unit, they were like, how are kids in Germany learning about World War II? How do kids in Japan learn about World War II? So yeah, it really does give them that curiosity about how other students are viewing and learning about different topics. But like Jalpa said, that just kind of creates this ripple effect where students continue to be curious. Got a lot of questions asking to list those resources. I'll do my best to drop them into that slide deck for you. We are going to be sending out this webinar, so you can always rewind and view those again. I want to invite you, take this opportunity to reshare my screen though, just to send you some more information about Penpal Schools. Someone also asked the question, is Penpal Schools free? So there are options for teachers to get started for free, but we also offer unlimited access through a school or a district license. And just for attending this webinar with us today, you would get a discount on that. So if you want to learn more, or even if you just want to connect with our team and learn more about Penpal Schools, I recommend filling out the form at this link. Here's a QR code that makes it really easy for you to find that link. Some of those other resources that were mentioned were Skype, Google Suites, Flipgrid. Penpal Schools is who we are. I'm trying to think of some of the other questions I saw here. And if you have more questions that we haven't been able to answer, there's a lot of them in our chat here. And some of them I think are maybe more specific to Jalpa. Send them to us after this webinar. You'll be getting an email from me, so you can email me all your questions. And maybe, Jalpa, we could even connect you to some of these panelists or some of these attendees if you'd like to connect with Jalpa directly, if that's okay with you, to, you know, get to know her. She's an incredible educator to know, but to also ask some of these questions more specifically. So let me just check some of these. How can these connections happen? Do you have options in Spanish? We have options in Spanish, in French, and in Mandarin Chinese. A lot of options available for your students. And yeah, I know Jalpa and we could keep talking about this all day long, but I want to be mindful of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much, Jalpa, for sharing your expertise. If you want to connect with her directly, reply to my email after this webinar and I will be happy to connect you. You can also join the Penpal Schools community and connect there. And we have a Facebook group as well. Any last parting words that you want to share, Jalpa, before we sign off here?
Thank you for having me there. I hope it might help people and the educators around the world. I might have addressed all the questions that they were looking for, but I would be happy to help them and give the insights of what exactly I'm doing in my classroom.
Awesome. So we feel free to jump out if you got to run. I'm going to just take an extra minute here and share in the chat for you the link, if it's easier for you to access the link there to our discounts, and then also the link to this slide deck here. Also want to thank everybody for your patience for our very first Zoom call. It's exciting stuff here. Copy link. Here is the slide deck for you, full of great resources, and I've already shared it, but I'll go back and add in the names of some of those resources that we mentioned. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy your day. Oh, wow, look at everybody popping up into the into the document already. I'm glad that this is useful. After this webinar, you're going to receive a survey from us. So please fill it out. Let us know how we can improve these webinars for you in the future and make this short little learning time that we have together even more impactful for you. We hope to see you online, connecting your students. And thank you so much again, everybody.